A country that has forgotten its past has no future. Beneath the ages, one fragment of history is withered. So, we were concerned. We were concerned about how to protect the roots of our memories. And we found it. The scientific miracle which can protect our memories. BMST Incorporate will protect the world's history through the cultural property disinfection prevention system. BMST Incorporate is continuously striving to develop eco-friendly products to preserve the environment and cultural properties. We are trying our best to provide the most fit, customized solution for biological damage of cultural properties and essential archives by investigating and analyzing beforehand through biomonitoring. Our technology is being acknowledged by patent applying with the Small and Medium Business Administration based on excellent technology and human resources. First, we look at the species of the artifact and investigate the temperature, humidity level, indoor air quality, etc. that can damage the subject artifact. We scientifically analyze the distinction, species, condition, inflow route of airborne bacteria, archival adhesive bacteria, pests that exist within the area through IPM. We find ways to eliminate bacteria and pests through biological identification by enzymatic analysis and toxicity analysis. We safely disinfect places such as the collection room, exhibit hall by using an eco-friendly machine that sprays fumigation medicine, which is harmless to the body, and the use of environmental control depending on the material quality of the subject in order to prevent biological damage on cultural properties and archives through step-by-step analysis results. We also provide an efficient and scientific system for the safety of the researcher and the management of the temperature and humidity level for the material quality of cultural properties and archives. BMST strives for perfect disinfection results through regular harmful microbe investigation and inspection. BMST thinks. History. It is the greatest asset we can deliver to our descendants. We want to say that protecting history is our destiny. The future in which the past speaks, BMST will protect it.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the International Knowledge Virtual Conference 2021. IKC 2021 is organized by the Sarawak State Library. Thank you for joining us in this morning session. I'm Edison Riquet from Sarawak State Library. I have worked as a librarian for 23 years and has managed State Library, Academic Library, and Special Library during this time. I am passionate about promoting literacy and using technology as a medium of knowledge sharing and transmission. I will be moderating the session today. Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors for their generous support of the conference, especially Emerald Publishing Limited, Access Dunia Sdn Bhd, Biomis Technology, Taylor and Francis University Bookstore. And I would like to introduce you our first speaker for this morning session. Hamzah Masleh is from Kampung Melayu Bararing in Serian, Sarawak, Malaysia. He obtained his Bachelor in Education from Institute of Teacher Education, Batu Lintang campus in 2015. At the moment, he is pursuing his postgraduate education in Master of Philosophy at Raja Zarif Sofia Center for Advanced Study on Islam, Science and Civilization, University Technology Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. He worked as a Malay language teacher at St. John Institution, Kuala Lumpur. He also involved as tutor of Malay language for local and international postgraduate students in UTM. His field of interest are language, history, religion, Islamic thoughts, philosophy, and education. Without further ado, I would like to invite Hamzah to present his paper, An Evaluation of Influence of Marketization in Higher Education. Over to you, Hamzah.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all the participants and organizer. First of all, I want to express my gratitude and thanks to the organizer for the opportunity to present my paper in this conference. So the title that I was chosen to present in this conference, as written in the slide, is an evaluation of the influence of marketization in higher education. This presentation is basically an extraction from the paper that was submitted to committee. However, because of the limitation in the paper, what written there is only the description of the element of marketization and some preliminary evaluation about some of the element. Therefore, in this my presentation, I will touch some other information that not include in the paper. There are several motivation behind this paper and the reason behind this title of the article. I want to address one of the problem in our higher education today, especially at the level of university, that has been influenced by what we call marketization mechanism. And this issue and this problem was become a concern for many scholars and academicians around the world. A dozen and research studies and was being done by scholars and academicians trying to grasp what is it called marketization in higher education, what is the influence of marketization in our higher education, and what is the implication that it brings to how we understand and how we view and portray what is the real purpose of higher education. In my context, I will refer to university. So, especially in our current times, the boundary between what is university and what is business is become blurred. Yeah? And what is knowledge culture and what is market culture is become mixed together within higher education itself. So this is the motivation behind this paper and the reason why I'm trying to address this issue. Before we go into detail, I think it's need for a brief history about the history of higher education and also university in the past, because the idea of marketization it is not exist in vacuum. What I mean is that there are something behind it, and they are the root of marketization that was emerged in the past that that this marketization element is become more rampant in nowadays. There are some event behind it in the past. So one of the event, very important event that happened in the past, I think most of us know and aware about this, and this event known as Industrial Revolution that was occurs in the late 18th century, especially in the Europe during that time. So Industrial Revolution, the first Industrial Revolution was happened during this time, 18th century. So this event is very significant because uh, it lead to many changes in our human life and in the aspect of society, either in the context of civilization, in the context of education itself, also was being changed due to this event, Industrial Revolution. One of the effect and one of the what we call the effect of Industrial Revolution is that the need for masses workers, need of many workers to fill and to in order to manage to what we call fulfill the demand of industry itself. Uh, another consequences is perhaps that the fragmentation, the industrial revolution lead to the fragmentation of labor. Utilize labor is become more uh, small unit in number. It's make partialize it into small unit in number, and what happened that it create many job and it creates many function in the industry. So this different and specialized function, it's need people to fill this job and this works and this function in the industry itself. So what happened is that because of the industry need many workers, then where the industry can get the workers itself. Therefore, during this time, what happened is that industrial revolution lead to the masses education for immediate demand of industry. So the university, the higher education become associated with their institution with the demand of industry. So the pressure from the national economic development summed up responses from higher education community to gradually link the institutionalization of the economic development. So with the positive responses and acceptance toward the economic forces, higher education institutions were formulated and operate through the indicative influence of a market-oriented economic philosophy. And the most influential one was from the neoliberal framework point as the marketization mechanism. So because of the influence of the marketization that become more rampant in nowadays, there are some response from the scholars itself and academician regarding this issue. One of the very important and significant response is from Harry R. Lewis. He is a former dean of Harvard College. He wrote a book entitled Excellence Without Soul, a very important book. In this book, he discussed about the element of marketization in his university. This idea of marketization is being implemented widely, and the most important thing that he somehow he observed that this type of mechanism, he showed that it's having failed to produce a better human being, and this element that contribute to this the failure is what he coined and what he the term that he used is competition and consumerism, which is competition and consumerism is basically is the part of marketization element that was being imposed in university. The second response by the other scholars by the name of Stephen Collini in his book Speaking of University. This is also one of the very important books. In this book, it was published recently. In this book, he tried to analyze some of the elements that shift the understanding of university to the marketization views. And this is a very important statement by himself, that he said that it has become commonplace, which is university, that to observe that how universities are now subject to adjustment factoring for their failure to be more like businesses. Okay, the third response, this is from Professor Wan Muhammad Wan Daud. He was a former director of IKC UTM. In this book, it's a very important book entitled Islamization of Contemporary Knowledge and the Role of University in the Context of De-Westernization and Decolonization. There are I think one statement that is very important regarding the notion and the characteristic of our university today. He said that the philosophy and practice of the modern university everywhere since the beginning of 20th century has been based on the Western model, which has evolved from the religious philosophical ideals orientation to that of national development and now to the economically pragmatic institution in various shapes. Now I want to move to the second part of my presentation. So I want to discuss about the idea of marketization. I will discuss about some of the elements, perhaps that this element from my observation and from my reading and from my discussion with other people in the university. Perhaps this is some of the elements that being imposed and practiced widely in our higher education today. So, as you can see in my slide, there are 6 of them, but there are other characteristics, but I want to focus on this aspect and characteristic first. Marketization mechanism, one of the elements of marketization is it portrays the university and higher education as a quasi-market. What it means that under this element, higher education or university operate through market order. Okay, their role is to contribute to the demand of society and the demand of division of labor by industry. So this element allows university of or higher education to use market, business and cooperation culture in every aspect of higher education, such as its purposes, its role, its curriculum and its management also. So, and then the second element is marketization influence higher education to construct their role, decision, policy, and construct the curriculum based on the demand and supply mechanism. You know, every decision making, every what we call policy, every curriculum that you want to construct, the decision that you want to do, want to make, most of them basically based on the demand and based on the demand mechanism. And the third one, the third element is the idea of competition. In this context, under competition, university or higher education view as a competitive industry. You know, competition is a discovery procedure in order to know what to offer. You know, who we need their services and how much resources to be allocated. The competition will deliver this information to provider, which is university or higher education, and student and stakeholder and industry, which is all of them regarded as a customer. So competition aims to discover the university quality and contribute to the freedom of choice of the student, stakeholder, and industry customer. And competition arrange the rank of university quality in order to contribute information to the public choice. The fourth element is decentralization. Under this decentralization means that university must be free from any interference by any authority in terms of their financial direction, funds, the financial aspect. Also, not interfere by any other authority, especially the authority of government. That's why we're quite familiar that the policy that to cut the budget of university and higher education. And then the fifth element is the commercialization. What it means by the commercialization is this commercialization refers to the act of selling services, commodity, and research by university for profit. So under this commercialization, we see that the research, our services, has a price and has a value in the market. In terms of we can sell it to other people. And then the last one, higher education operation defined as a process of exchange goods and services only. Okay, it's redefine the relationship between the university and the student, which is this relationship just an exchange of goods and services. And then we move to explain about the implication of the element of marketization in our higher education and some of the aspect of it. But perhaps that because of my limitation, I want to discuss only two aspects, which is how this idea of marketization give and bring the implication toward the purpose of higher education and also the curriculum. So in the context of the purpose of higher education, the marketization process shift the real purposes of higher education from producing good men to producing workers demanded by market forces and industry. The second one, the dominant criteria for higher education provider to supply their services are based on their motive to generate more income and to improve their profile in the market. And the last one, marketization views market order as a supreme source and principle of human action. So this is the implication of marketization in the context of the purpose. So in the context of curriculum, the first one, the implication toward the curriculum that this marketization, it make the knowledge is become more fragmented. If the fragmentation of knowledge is become more rampant, and what happened is that knowledge itself, which is universal and which is unifying in its characteristic, is become specialized. It's become fragment into small unit in number. And the second one, the useful knowledge determined by market indicator. The knowledge that the value of knowledge is determined by the market indicator. Okay, either it has a value, either it demanded by the market, either it demanded by industry itself. And then the curriculum, the construction of the curriculum based on the demand and society base, as I already discussed. And then the last one, knowledge turned into product. So what happened that nowadays people trying to utilize knowledge to become product, and we can sell it in the market. So from the description and implication on marketization interpretation of higher education, so there is a need to rethink the true role and the purpose of higher education and development. And then higher education should not be sacrificed to attain pragmatic interest to generate more income, extreme priority over financial improvement, transforming educational institution into business structure and forgetting its true role and purposes, which will lead to the destruction of many aspects in our life. I think that's all from me. I apologize. In my presentation, I am not touch many things. Perhaps that just something that we can discuss in this conference. So thank you from me. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hai semua, hari ini saya akan berkongsi tentang cara mendaftar e-pembelajaran Reading Seed dan langkah menyertai modul pembelajaran. Untuk langkah pertama, buka enjin carian seperti Google dan type Open Learning Reading Seed. Kemudian, klik pada pautan paling atas. Selepas itu, klik pada butang Join Now. Untuk langkah kedua, di sini anda akan diberi pilihan sama ada menggunakan Microsoft, Facebook atau akaun email. Tapi sebaiknya saya sarankan anda untuk menggunakan akaun email. Langkah ketiga, anda diminta untuk mengisi butiran lengkap sebelum memulakan modul pembelajaran. Pembelajaran ini mengandungi 12 modul. Setiap modul haruslah dilengkapkan dan anda juga harus membuka setiap audio yang disertakan dalam modul. Selepas habis setiap modul, anda dikehendaki untuk memberi komen. Untuk langkah keempat, setelah selesai semua modul e-pembelajaran, anda dikehendaki untuk mengisi maklumat penilaian. Akhir sekali, anda akan memperolehi e-sijil setelah selesai semua modul e-pembelajaran. Kiranya anda mempunyai anak berumur 3 tahun ke bawah, anda boleh menuntut Kids Reading Seed di mana-mana cawangan pustaka yang berdekatan. Anda dikehendaki untuk membawa sijil dan buku rekod kesihatan anak untuk tuntutan. Selamat mencoba!
Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, Sabrina Milan. She currently lecturing at Department of Information Technology and Communication at Polytechnic Kuching, Sarawak, Malaysia. Without further ado, I'd like to invite Sabrina to present her paper presentation on digital services through institutional repository at Kuching, Sarawak Polytechnic Library. And this paper was co-written by Kiprawi Sani of Polytechnic Kuching, Sarawak, Malaysia. Over to you, Sabrina.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a good day. My name is Sabrina binti Milan. On behalf of co-author, I would like to thank the organizer for this opportunity. Today, I would like to present a paper with title Digital Services Through Institutional Repositories at Kuching Sarawak Polytechnic Library. Ladies and gentlemen, for the introduction, first, Kuching Sarawak Polytechnic PKS was established in 1988 under the 5th Malaysia Plan. PKS are part of 36 polytechnics and 103 community college under Administrative Polytechnic and Community College Department, JPPKK. PKS offer 14 programs with 9 programs conducted covering engineering and non-engineering fields, comprising 9 engineering programs, 2 commerce programs, and 1 information technology programs. PKS have 500 employees and 405,000 students. PKS Library is part of the support units that play an important role in supporting teaching and learning activities to produce competitive polytechnic graduates. The services and facilities provided in the library have made the library as the main reference center and even serve as a leisure center and so on. To date, the PKS library has about 13,000 copies of materials. PKS Digital Institutional Repository, PKS-IR. PKS Library benchmark success of Malaysia universities implementing digital platform using institutional repositories. These space capabilities and uniqueness have made ideas and expectation to make knowledge management continue to be relevant in line with the rapid development of technology. Smith et al. 2003 argues that GSpace will play very important role in the future, especially to university librarians and archive. Biswas and Paul 2010 explained that the role played by repositories in managing and disseminating information generated by institutions digitally will help preserve long-term digital resources. These pairs have transformed a traditional library to a digital service, effectively low-cost, growing digital services and open nature. Zainab 2010, open access will dominate the scholarly world where it helps authors share research, knowledge, and information with others as much as possible. This is the success of the PKS Digital Repository of Institution. We have archives, the total of 90, articles on research and innovation, 25, conference paper, 35, examination paper, 2,458, thesis, 5, image, 84, PKS director speech, 25, publication, 64, record management 1, and tracer study reports. The total up is 2,794. So the impact of the institutional repository, first is research information management. Academic lectures are the largest contributor to the research data available in PKS-IR, which are obtained through research and presentation. Efficient intellectual information management is created, so the aspect of knowledge sharing and reference services can be done more easily. Then second one is a center of archive. Archival materials have been successfully through the digitization process so that they have added value and are so preserved. These materials are highly value based on their content, historical value, and also the year of the publication. Number 3 is cost, maintenance done by the internal expertise. And then effective and many benefits. Number 4, open access. The PKS-IR has enabled materials such as the archive collection, research material to be publicly accessible and more widely available through the internet network, and it will benefit end user and the scholars. For the challenge and issues, first, knowledge sharing. Kamranina and Riza 2010 authors still rarely upload materials, and meetings in the form of training should be held to promote their institutional repository. Awareness among lecturers on IR PKS is still a satisfactory level. The contribution of research. Okorama 2018 argued that the awareness of researchers and lecturers of institutional repositories is an important element in creating a significant role and benefit if they use IR to develop research results. Material is still low because they prefer other platforms. Digitization budget. Harun 2010 proposed appropriate budget allocation to facilitate digital library planning. It is necessary for the development of digital libraries, training, database maintenance, hardware, software, infrastructure, provision of online services, and also maintenance. Use of existing equipment and tools to make the project a success. Number 3 is IT expertise. A group of experts in PKS are fully utilized to carry out technical work such as upgrades and maintenance to ensure the continuity of PKS IR. Next is copyright. The ever-evolving technology has made it more challenging issue for the libraries and the librarians. Zainab 2010 mentioned that problems such as copyright ownership seems to be able to be resolved as attitudes as beginning to change. More e-print, e-journal, and print journal publishers are going to green by allowing authors to retain the copyright to their works. Conclusion for the visibility, the Kamraninia and Abriza 2010. The primary reason for establishing institutional repositories is to increase the visibility of institution research output by making it open access. Joe et al. 2018 argue that institutional repositories not only serve a compelling digital place for researchers to store, manage, and preserve their scholarly materials, but also an online venue to distribute those materials effectively, potentially increasing the impact and visibility of research. Polytechnics needs to make the university in Malaysia as a benchmark, which has successfully developed a repository institutional platform that successfully forms a pool of high-value academic materials. The importance of educational institution to implement open access to visibility of research finding and corporate memories. So this is the library of PKS. So this is the storage cabinet. So this is the photo collection. Then this is the PKS IR portal front page and the URL. You can access all the materials here. Thank you for your attention and Assalamualaikum.
Thank Thank you very much, Mrs. Sabrina Milan from Kuching Polytechnic, Sarawak, Malaysia, for your presentation and the sharing on digital services through institutional repository at Kuching Sarawak Polytechnic Library. Hi, I'm Farhan Ain. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue for our next paper, we are pleased to have Yang Berbahagia Mrs. Arpah Adenan, Acting Chief Executive Officer, Sarawak State Library, Malaysia, to deliver the opening remarks.
Assalamualaikum and good morning. Distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. The International Knowledge Virtual Conference 2001 should have taken place last year, but the pandemic not only delayed the event but also pushed it into the virtual world. It had changed our lifestyle drastically, and the environment is also affected as collateral damage due to increased use in chemical and single-use plastic products on health reasons. As the pandemic is global in nature, its impact on environmental sustainability is huge. The theme, Sustainable Development Goals, Roles of Knowledge Institutions and the Public Service, is selected due to its becoming more relevant for the preservation and conservation of the environment that we are living in. The discussion on global warming and climate change started decades ago. It continues, and as time passes, environmental deterioration is getting worse, while global warming has not been subdued. Efforts to get the participation of masses into discussing and taking actions towards sustainable living is urgent and important. I hope all of us will benefit from discussions, networking, sharing, and if need be, arguing in this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Knowledge Conference is held once in every 5 years. It started in 2005, and this is the third, focusing on 5 sustainable development goals, in particular, SDG 3, good health and well-being, ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all at all ages. SDG 4, quality education, ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. While SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, promote sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full productive employment and decent work for all. SDG 10, reduce inequality within and among countries. SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions, promote peaceful and inclusive society for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. The objectives of this conference are to be a venue for researchers, librarians, archivists, knowledge workers, policymakers, students, and academicians to share knowledge and experience, interact, and network. Additionally, to discuss and analyze new innovations, current trends, and best practices in the management, access, and communication of information, to overview governmental policies on access to information, provision of library services, freedom of information, intellectual property rights, personal data protection, and limiting access to government records for security reasons. Another objective is to identify the potential and suitable applications of ICT in the publication, access, management, and preservation on information, and also to evaluate the impact of technological advancements on roles played by libraries and archives, especially in encouraging lifelong learning and optimizing human potentials. And lastly, to discuss strategies for optimization of access to information resources in view of United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, Pustaka Negeri Sarawak, with the blessing from the Right Honourable Chief Minister, has started programs and activities for the promotion and advocacy of a sustainable Sarawak, or Lestari Sarawak. With the presence of local and international speakers and participants, we hope to also learn from your experiences as we progress. The International Federation of Library Association and Institutions, IFLA, had been championing on how libraries can contribute towards 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The organization of this conference is part of this and should expand it further to include other knowledge institutions and the public service. It would be great if we could work together in sustainability programs after this conference. I would like to thank all distinguished speakers and participants for your contribution in making this conference a reality. My gratitude also goes to the Sarawak State Government for the strong support given to Pustaka. Thank you also to the Chairman and members of the Board of Management for their guidance and support in all activities and programs conducted by Pustaka Negeri Sarawak. Finally, congratulations to the organizing committee, collaborators and supporters who had been with us all along in making this conference a success. Have a productive conference, stay safe and strive for sustainability.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Arpa Adenan, for that wonderful remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mrs. Arpa Adenan, Acting Chief Executive Officer, Sarawak State Library, Malaysia. Next, I'm honored to invite Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Dato' Amar Dr. Haji Hamid Bugo, Chairman, Board of Management, Sarawak State Library, Malaysia, to deliver his keynote address.
Distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. There is a photograph of planet Earth taken by the space probe Voyager 1 on February 14, 1990, at a distance of about 6 billion kilometers away. It shows our planet as a very small speck in the vast space lightened by sun rays. The photograph was later known as the pale blue dot. Carl Sagan wrote about it. I quote, "Look again at that dot. That's here, that's home, that's us," unquote. With that photograph, it has become easier for us to imagine how small our world really is. The word small might still be too big, and at an interstellar scale, the word minuscule is probably more appropriate to describe Earth's size. This planet is where all of us live, raise our family, build villages, develop towns, open up cities, declare states, united as sovereign countries, and sign treaties as regional economic communities. We strive socially and economically, while unfortunately at times some of us even went to war against each other because we are focusing on our personal, national, and even ideological interests. And we forget that in our selfishness, at whatever scale that is, it is our one and only planet Earth that is actually at stake. If we destroy this lively and beautiful Earth, then we shall lose everything. Sustainability is thus a very crucial factor in order for us to ensure that we do not destroy planet Earth in our pursuit for development and comfortable living. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone can live their life sustainably. It is our responsibility. The food that we eat is best sourced from a sustainable agricultural practice. The water we use should be filtered and cleansed before being released back into the environment. Transportation use should not release pollutants exceeding safe limit that could be naturally cleansed by the environment. Building materials and construction technology should minimize waste while at the same time incorporating recycling. Energy supply should come from a renewable source and less polluting, and many more cases can be cited. We can do our bit, but like any other issues of common goodness, acting alone is difficult and very often less efficient. To achieve economies of scale and significant positive impact, concerted efforts by groups of people working together has been proven to be a much better approach. For this crucial issue, government and the corporate sector, together with individual citizens, must come together and produce a concerted effort. Ladies and gentlemen, while protecting and preserving Earth is in the interest of humanity, to come up with global collaboration is indeed challenging. The United Nations came up with the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, but mastering every nation's commitment has proven to be almost impossible. Pollution starts with individual human being. Maybe this is why collaboration efforts have been limited in impact and slow to yield positive results. Every one of us is an intelligent creature, making our own choices, consciously or otherwise, on our actions or indeed inactions. Thus, solving the problem at its roots is very important. Our thinking process and consequent actions or inactions depend on the information and knowledge that we have. While the education system prepared us for living a good life, after years of leaving school, we do need to unlearn outdated subject matters and relearn new ones. This is the literacy of the 21st century where we are now. The roles of knowledge institutions are becoming more paramount. They should always become centers of enlightenment, where minds meet and ideas interact, where access to information, knowledge, technologies and cultures available beyond the superficial boundaries imposed by geography or geopolitics. They should provide forums for intellectual exchange amongst the people. When more people are enlightened on the importance of sustainable lifestyle, I believe only then shall we see better improvements in pollutant control and better hopes of a sustainable planet Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I would like to wish all of you a fruitful and sustainable International Knowledge Virtual Conference of 2021. Thank you. Have a very nice day.
Thank you very much Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Dato' Amar Dr. Haji Hamid Bugo for that wonderful address. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to continue for our next paper. Over to Mr. Edison.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, Dr. Gina Diawis Jayasuriya, comes over 4 decades of experience in academic and special library and was instrumental in driving the Library Vision 2020 project to innovate and transform the Singapore Institute of Management Library to meet the evolving information needs of a new generation of users. Throughout her decades-long career, she has been very passionate about promoting continuing professional development (CPD) for library professionals and has advocated prioritizing upskilling and reskilling as a means to keep up with changes. During her travel in the region, Gina had the opportunity to gain insight into the training gaps faced by LIS sector, which leads her to initiate a project on continuing professional development (CPD) for LIS professional in selected Asian country in 2019. The pilot project is in Maldives was completed in 2020 and produced 2 articles which have been accepted for publication in IFLA journal in Library Information Science. Gina continued her collaboration with Maldives to address gaps in CPD opportunity. The research study is now extended to other countries in region. She is committed to sharing her knowledge with fellow librarians who do not have opportunity for such exposure as a means of giving back to the profession. She has traveled widely and has visited libraries both in the West and the East to keep up with new trends and technological advancement in the field. Gina holds a PhD in Information Study from Nanyang Technological University, Singapore, and research on information-seeking behavior of managers in digital environment for her thesis. She has presented at many conferences and has publications to her credit. Her research interests include continuing professional development, the evolving role of librarian competency for the 21st century, international librarianship, information-seeking behavior, and emerging trends and technology impacting libraries. She resides in Singapore. Without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Gina to present a paper on libraries' role in supporting SDGs in supporting world reality of Republic of Maldives, and this paper was co-written by Dr. Amidas, the Maldives National University of Malay, and Dr. Shaheen Majid, retired Associate Professor at Wee Kim Swee School of Communication and Information, Nanyang Technology University, Singapore. Over to you, Dr. Gina.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello and greetings on behalf of my co-authors. The objectives of our presentation is to assess the level of readiness of the Maldivian LIS profession to contribute to the government's efforts towards capacity building of the Maldivian community to effectively navigate the digital landscape and to serve as partners to support local development needs and improve government's efforts to achieve the UN 2030 agenda for SDGs. For years, the mission of libraries has evolved around culture and education. And in the last few decades, the impact of technology has transformed how we live, work, and entertain. As technologies mutate, libraries too have had to transform and redefine their roles to adjust to the digital shift. In the last 20 years, the mission of libraries has been expanding beyond the cultural and educational to include the social function as a core mission as well. Two specific examples of programs developed by libraries to fulfill the social mission and prepare communities for the digital environment include the Digital Literacy for the Community program launched by your very own Sarawak State Library, and the Library Learning Journey, a program for senior citizens offered by the National Library of Singapore. The International Federation of Library Associations, or IFLA, recognizing that the UN 2030 agenda provides a possible framework for extending the concept of the library, made a case for the libraries. IFLA's initiative was to ensure that access to information and universal literacy were included in the 2030 UN SDGs in order to position libraries as partners with their governments in the creation of national development plans. The vision of the 2030 agenda is a world with universal literacy. And the universal mission of libraries is provision of access to information which is cross-cutting and can help support all of the SDGs. The IFLA Library Map of the World, SDG Stories, showcases many examples of how libraries have partnered local development and contributed to achieving their nation's SDG goals. In order to keep up with these changes and undertake new roles and responsibilities, LIS professionals have had to acquire new skills through continuing professional development, or CPD. So what is CPD? It is learning activities undertaken to fill in knowledge gaps, to enhance professional development and your career pathways. Some examples of formal learning activities include attending such conferences such as the IKC 2021, short courses, workshops, seminars, and webinars. In January 2019, I initiated a study on continuing professional development for librarians in selected Asian countries to be conducted in collaboration with the local LIS sector. The aim of the study is to obtain the perspectives of both LIS employees as well as LIS training providers on the status of CPD in the respective countries. The Republic of Maldives was selected for the pilot study. This was the first CPD study in the country, and the objective of this pilot study was to understand library and information science professionals' perceptions, motivations, assessments, and preference for participation in CPD programs. So a little bit about the Republic of Maldives. It's a geographically dispersed archipelago of 26 atolls in the Indian Ocean with less than 400,000 people. The country has one of the strongest ICT infrastructures in South Asia, and the first university in the country was established in 2011. But as many of you may be aware, Maldives is a very popular tourist destination. A little bit about the Maldives LIS sector. It's a total, according to a 2012 study, a total of 294 libraries operate in the country. The National Library of Maldives also serves as the only public library for the entire country. There are 221 school libraries, 7 academic libraries, and 30 special research libraries. The Maldives Library Association was established in 1987 at a time when there were no qualified library professionals in the country. However, due to resource constraints and a lack of experienced professionals and leadership, the association has faced setbacks and have been inactive at different times of the years. The status of the LIS job market. A majority of the individuals employed in the Maldives libraries are officers of the Maldives Civil Service. As of July 2020, there were approximately 293 active library positions. However, 93 of these were vacant. Currently, only 4 professionals hold a university LIS qualification. Therefore, it has been extremely challenging to recruit qualified librarians. One major barrier to retaining and attracting LIS qualified professionals is the absence of a job classification framework for the LIS profession, which has been in the drafting stage, you won't believe this, since 2012. The Maldives National University started offering an advanced certificate in 2010 and a diploma in 2012. A bachelor degree program is scheduled to be launched in 2021. It was only in 2018 that a full-time LIS faculty was appointed. The 2 principal LIS CPD training providers in the country are the National Library of Maldives and the Maldives Library Association. As a majority of the librarians are civil service employees, they are entitled to follow training courses offered by the Civil Services Training Institute, CSTI. They offer a wide range of programs on general and soft skills development with emphasis on upgrading IT skills. Data collection for the study was carried out between November 2019 and June 2020 using both quantitative and qualitative techniques. The online questionnaire received 49 responses, and the semi-structured interviews were conducted via Zoom with 7 LIS employees representing different types of libraries. Key findings from the study: many LIS professionals have yet to comprehend the importance of personal responsibility of continuing learning and only associated learning with salary increase or promotion. Only 30% of the respondents had participated in at least one CPD program during the last 3 years. The school library professionals are the most affected by the minimal access to CPD learning opportunities, as there is a gap in their HR policies governing staff development. Additionally, a majority of the school librarians are either unaware of the training opportunities available from CSTI or consider these courses irrelevant to their LIS work. LIS professionals in the Maldives have access to a very limited number of LIS-related programs. Two principal LIS training providers operating in the country are the National Library and the Library Association. And the association has not been active very lately. Due to limited resources, the CPD programs offered by the National Library were mainly targeted at new entrants to the profession, as a majority of them were without any LIS qualification. Lack of appropriate training programs targeted at the supervisory and middle management levels, and the top barriers to pursuing CPD programs: lack of suitable training programs, shortage of knowledgeable resource persons, the inability to pay for training from one's personal resources, and lack of opportunities for career advancements. Reasons for the slow development pace of the LIS profession. LIS academic programs were launched just a decade ago. The absence of a strong National Library Association that could act as a basis for a robust LIS profession. Although the National Library and the Library Association are focused on similar missions of developing the LIS profession, there is only a limited collaboration between them, unfortunately. The association continues to be relatively inactive from time to time, and the National Library does not appear to be embracing the importance of the association as an enabler in implementing the National Library's strategies. Uncertain career paths due to the absence of a job classification framework for LIS professionals, the low salary structure leading to low self-esteem in the profession, and thus failure to attract and retain talented individuals to the profession, and the last but not least, a lack of recognition among the key decision makers in different organizations about the critical role of libraries as 21st century learning centers for lifelong learning. Although the Maldivian government has been actively working towards realizing the SDGs for the country, the LIS sector does not seem to be involved in the process. Libraries are key stakeholders, providing access to information, education, and social participation, and therefore need to assume a leadership role. But unfortunately, this does not seem to be the case in the Maldives. And sadly, it is a missed opportunity for the Maldivian LIS sector. In today's digital landscape, universal access to information implies equitable and easy access to information to all countries, irrespective of their level of national development. Access to information implies meaningful access to information. However, it is a fact that the availability of library services and access to information does not present a level playing field due to many factors. For example, we are aware of the glaring disparities in the digital divide and the existence of low-tech environments in many developing nations. The recent pandemic further highlighted the disparities even in first world countries such as the USA. To conclude, the slow development pace of the Maldivian LIS sector inhibits the profession from contributing to the government's efforts towards capacity building of the Maldivian community to effectively navigate the digital landscape and being considered as partners capable of supporting local development needs and improving government's efforts to achieve the UN 2030 agenda for SDGs. The current state of the LIS sector in the Maldives is not unique to the country and may well resonate with other countries with similar scenarios. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, Nurul Farida. She's currently studying at Gajah Mada University, Indonesia. Without further ado, I would like to invite Nurul to present her paper presentation on critical literacy for academic librarian in Indonesia. And this paper was co-written by Kadek Aryana Dwi Putra and Wahid Nasihuddin of Gajah Mada University, Indonesia. Over to you, Nurul.
Hi, my name is Nurul. I'm from Indonesia. Today, I would like to present my paper result entitled Critical Literacy for Academic Librarians in Indonesia. This slide describes several sections. such as introduction, research methods, results and discussion, then conclusion. For the introduction, information is neutral, but information writers have understanding, attitudes, and values in writing information. Critical literacy is used to understand an individual's subjective position in understanding the world and how to act in it. Critical literacy is an ability that must be possessed by every individual, including librarians as professional information. Therefore, through critical literacy skills, academic librarians are expected to become individuals who can be wise and provide benefits in their work, especially in carrying out their role as literacy activists for students. Research method we use is descriptive study with qualitative approach. Sampling was done using purposive sampling techniques. For academic librarian in Semarang and have an understanding of critical literacy. Data, we collecting the data with depth interview, observation, and literature study. For the result and discussion, here we have 4 dimensions of critical literacy. The first one is disrupting the commonplace. Disrupting the commonplace based on a critical literacy approach. Informants are positioned as individuals who have assumptions. The attempt to disrupt the commonplace is to always question the veracity of information from a different lens. Librarians have various tendencies in the process of seeking information. Each individual has their own reasons for choosing information as a reference. But all the informants in this study agreed that any information produced must have a purpose. Seeking more information and understanding the author's truth about the situation can provide a new perspective, a way of looking at a situation that was previously unknown. This can improve one's critical literacy ability. Then the second one is integrating multiple viewpoints. Examining various points of view according to critical literacy is to find out whose voice is being heard and whose voice is missing. The author's points of view may not necessarily represent all parties related to what is informed. Therefore, efforts are needed to align and compare information from various points of view. The way informants examine information from various points of view by seeking information from various parties, such as directly related parties who assess the information. Informants view information that contained a neutrality or partisanships will attempt to support certain parties. Information that contains neutrality or partiality to certain groups tends to be sensitive to political and social information. Focusing on socio-political issue. Information is neutral, but in the process of making information, it is usually built socially and politically to achieve a certain agenda, especially on socio-political issues, which are basically met with the interest of certain parties. The way for the informant to believe that information contains power from certain parties is to look at the trends that appear in the information. Partisanships of the author and power relation tucked away in the information is a common thing, especially when it comes to socio-political issues. This is because the author is a profession. Socio-political issues try to encourage readers' opinions to support the agenda of the parties concerned. This makes informants must always feel suspicious about what is conveyed in information that contains socio-political issues. Then the last one is taking action. Taking action in critical literacy shows how the readers act on the information obtained. The initial stage before taking action, informants accumulate information that they already have to get the gist of the discussion. The accumulation of information can be in the form of a collection of information read through information or information obtained through social experience. When the accumulated information is deemed insufficient, the informant will try to relate it to the theory that has been studied to help understand the information being read. Informants in the study have a variety of actions to follow up the information obtained. The various actions referred to are ranging from not taking action to sharing opinions with others. Then the conclusion is informants are active in seeking information from various different sources with various point of view. Some choose not to find out more about the information obtained. Informants understand the neutrality of information and power that is often tucked away in information, especially information that contains socio-political issues. Informants are more alert in process of understanding information. The process carried out by informants after getting information tends to be personal consumption to enrich information for themselves. When the understanding possessed by the informant is felt to be lacking, the informant will share opinions with those closest to him. Some choose to leave it alone and persist with his personal assumption. This is reference we use, and I think that
With world-leading content from Taylor and Francis, you can search across 17 interconnected goals and explore material from a global network of authors and experts across every discipline. Explore SDG online now.
Before we begin the Q&A session, I would like to thank our sponsor for their generous support of the conference, especially University Bookstore, Sdn Bhd, Diamond Sponsorship, Biomis Technology Malaysia, Sdn Bhd, Diamond Sponsorship, Taylor and Francis, Sdn Bhd, Gold Sponsorship, Emerald Publishing Limited, Gold Sponsorship, and lastly, Access Junior Sdn Bhd, Gold Sponsorship. Welcome back. Now we're on to our Q&A session with our speaker, with our distinguished speaker. Can we welcome back Hamzah bin Masleh, Sabrina Milan, Dr. Gina, and Nurul? Okay. We will now move on to the Q&A portion of the presentations. Let me asking this question to Hamza. Hamza, an evaluation in the presentation, you mentioned that the principle of demand and supply. Perhaps you can explain more about the effects of the publication of the demand and supply mechanism in higher education and its nature. Over to you, Hamza.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Edison, moderator for this session. Before I'm going into detail, I want to make a clear statement that the idea of marketization that I was referring here is basically based on the idea of marketization formulated by one of the economic theory and economic philosophy known as neoliberalism. So this type of philosophy in economy, they're trying to they hold the idea of free market, and they hold the idea of the market as a supreme values for every action in our life. So one of the very important significant mechanism that they are using is the mechanism of demand and supply. Basically, neoliberalism trying to extend the idea of market, free market, especially in every aspect of our life, including also how we they also extend this idea in the area of university and in the area of higher education. First, what is mean by demand and supply, and how its nature in our university, and what is the effect of this type of demand and supply. So first, that demand and supply, we are referring to the allocation, the resources. We are formulating the curriculum. We are what we call manage the curriculum based on the demand of industry and demand of the market. So every decision and every policy was based on this type of mechanism. You know, if there is a demand, then we have to offer. If there is a demand in this industry, in the technology, then university should offer. And this kind of mechanism, perhaps that from my reading and from my investigation, that, and even perhaps by a concern by many scholars around the world, it tends to somehow make many subjects and that considered as a humanity being abandoned and also left behind, because of because the demand, the big demand, is sometimes is derived from the industry. They tend to what we call enhance the technology. So because of that, the university has to offer some subject and offer the curriculum based on this kind of demand. So what happened is that has been concerned by many scholars that many subjects that refers to the humanity, for example, like the philosophy, moral, and ethics, it's not become a priority. It's not become a central in our university. This is because perhaps that this kind of knowledge. I think Dato' Tan Sri Dato' Amar was making a good point that he said that the university and higher education is meant to produce a responsible man, responsible human being. But what we mean by responsible man, and how the university and the higher education, what we call have a responsible to produce this kind of man, if we are following the demand of industry, because we abandon, we left behind, we take the study and also the humanity subject is not important anymore. What happened that nowadays we allocate many resources to to build the technology. It's okay, but the problem is, even in the past, especially in the World War II, when when people drop the atom, in the Nagasaki and Hiroshima, it's become a concern for the scientists who will make the atom. And he sometimes reflect that what happened, the science technology they built before before the World War II, the illusion that given by the science and technology that this kind of technology can help and can make human life is easy and can bring the happiness, but in the same time, this type of knowledge, technology, kill people in very short time. You kill people in a big amount, but in a short time. So the scientists become concerned that what happened to this kind of knowledge if you know. So what I'm trying to do that science, technology, what happened, what people demand nowadays, we can say that it's like a tool. It's like a knife. When we use a knife for cooking, to cutting the vegetable, it's become a good tool. But sometimes the science and technology, uh, sometimes it can also use to kill someone. So a knife as a tool, it cannot decide what is good and what is wrong, what is bad. And who decide what is good and bad is human itself. So if university not produce responsibility human being, what happened that we cannot sometimes we cannot make a critical thinking about what we do nowadays. Even for example, like the demand right now, we attend to the fourth revolution, industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution. But are we really understand what is it this called industrial revolution, fourth industrial revolution, industrial revolution for? For example, like people nowadays talk about transhumanism, combination between man, between human being with machine. But do we ask that what is the moral gradation that will produce if we are following this trend? Okay, we are not thinking critically. Of course, we can think what benefit, but sometimes we should think also what is the effect of it and what is the moral gradation that will happen if we are following this type of stuff. Okay, that's all from me, Edison.
Thank you, Hamza, for your insight on that particular question. We move on to another question. I was query regarding the knowledge culture. Can you explain what are the characteristics of knowledge culture in higher education, and what are the differences the marketization culture?
Okay, thank you, Edison. First of all, I want to explain that the terms knowledge culture that I want to discuss here is derived from the book that was written by our scholars, Professor Wan Muhammad Nawan Daud. The book was entitled Budaya Ilmu. If I'm not mistaken, the book was launched in the Pustaka Sarawak 2019.
Yeah.
So in that book, Professor Wan elaborate about what is the characteristic of knowledge culture, and this is the culture that we have to what we call practicing in the context of university, because university is higher education is the place where a good minded person, very critical person was there. So the knowledge has become priority there. So what is the knowledge culture entail is that first is referred to the condition of society and the condition of people that put the value of knowledge in the higher places. That the first. The second one, every decision, every what we call nowadays constructing the curriculum, okay, what we offer is based on what we understand about the truth about knowledge itself. So knowledge is become priority, and knowledge is become highest value in human values. I make example, for instance, that in the history, we make the conference in library, perhaps in the past, especially in the Islamic civilization, the library known as Bait al-Hikmah, the house of wisdom, and it was founded by one of very my person in Abbasid period, in the late of 8th and perhaps 9th century. So during that times, a person and also the scholars in that Abbasid, period, they are gather the books from the Greek tradition, they translate it, and they somehow advance that kind of knowledge. The motivation behind this type of, translation, advancement of knowledge is not about the economic growth per se. It's not about the demand of industry during that time, but because of they have and put the value of knowledge in the highest form. The same also happened in the Western civilization. For example, like we can say in the 12th, 13th century, we have person like Saint Abelard, Saint Thomas Aquinas. They are the great scholars in the Western civilization. What happened that they are the one who founded the university. And the motivation behind the founder of this university in the Western civilization is based on how they put the knowledge in higher place. Okay, that's all from me, Edison.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hamza, for your response to query. I mean, the question that we posted at the Q&A session. Okay, we move on to Dr. Gina. Dr. Gina, are you around?
Hello, yes, I am. Can you hear me?
How are you, Dr. Gina?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah,
how are you?
Nice to meet you again. I'm good also.
Yes.
So, Dr. Gina, I think we will proceed with this question.
Yes.
What advice do you have for a library employee considering CPD program?
Yes, thank you, Edison. Hello, everybody. It's nice to be, can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. Yes, it's nice to be able to dress up and attend a conference, even if it is virtually. I was very excited today, this morning, and I realized how much I miss networking and attending conferences. To answer the question, you have to first identify your needs. And here I'd like to cover 3 areas. First one, is it to keep up to date with the latest trends in LIS? Now, if this is your interest, then what you need to do is to do some searching. There are lots of articles out there published by library associations, like, for example, the ACRL, and they talk about what are the latest trends in the field. So from these articles, you can identify what is of interest to you, and then move on to sourcing for possible events, conferences, etc. that's out there that would help you expand your knowledge. Now, the second area refers to your upgrading your current skills to enhance your job in your current position. And here there are a few ways you can do it. One is to, now in a lot of organizations, there's what is called an annual performance appraisal. Now, I'm not sure if this happens in Sarawak and Sabah and places, Indonesia, but in this annual performance appraisal, the supervisor and the staff sit together and you discuss. The supervisor explains to the staff what are their areas of strength, what are their areas for improvement. And then together identify what are possible areas that the first employee needs to focus on for the following year, and find suitable training that the employee can attend. Now, if you don't have such an opportunity, talk to your supervisor informally. You can also talk with your peers. Then you can go online and check to see what others are doing in this area, and look at your positions. There are many job advertisements now available online. Look at the advertisements to see what are the skills required for that position. Then you see, okay, do you have this particular skill? If you don't have that skill, then that's something that you have to take up and to get some training in. Now, the third area is if you're looking, of course, we are all aspire to move on in our careers. No one wants to stay in the same place, in the same position forever and ever, I'm sure. So it is important that for your career pathway, you look at what are your interests. Do you want a promotion in your own organization, or do you want to go out to other organizations and find positions in those? So if that is the case, look at the kind of position you're interested in and see what is required for that position. And then you customize your training. Be very, very focused in what you're doing. Don't get distracted. And based on the requirements, what you think are the requirements, try to develop your career pathway, develop your training, undertake training, and keep going. Don't give up. That's very, very important. Invest your time on training, because end of day, that is what will help you move on, and it will give you the satisfaction. I can assure you it gives satisfaction. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting, Dr. Gina, because I think Indonesia, they have like Indonesia and Philippines, they have CPD. They require their librarian in order to maintain the librarianship license. They must attend at least a few conferences, CPD in a year. So these apply also at the Maldives?
No, I'm afraid no. It doesn't apply to Maldives at all. They're a long, long way from it. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of other countries in this region, it doesn't apply either as yet. Yeah. It's not required. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Okay. The second question that I want to ask you, Dr. Gina, is you mentioned that two barriers to CPD are budget constraint and lack of suitable local programs. What do you suggest to overcome this barrier?
Yeah. Fortunately, because of internet, we can go online now, Google, and look for opportunities. There are many, many opportunities available. But the important thing is that you are dedicated and go looking for it. Because if you don't look for it, then it is tough. It doesn't fall on your lap in that sense. So it is important that, especially after the pandemic, there are many, many opportunities available, from conferences, webinars, even if you attend a webinar, 1 hour webinar, there's always 1 or 2 points that you can pick up. So it's very important that you, wherever you can invest the time, spend the time, because even for me at this point in time in my career, each time I switch on and watch a webinar, I do learn something new, which I'm able to share with someone else. So that is important. And therefore, be motivated, be resourceful. And don't forget, it's not only about functional skills, that is learning, acquiring skills related to librarianship, but also the soft skills, communication skills, team building, project management, etc., etc. There's a long list. So acquire these skills as well. What is important to you? And then after you finish your training, very, very important, when you go back to your workplace, first apply the skills you have learned. Because if you don't apply, you will forget all about it. So find ways to apply your skills, what you have acquired. Then again, there are, in some of our jobs, it is not possible to apply some of these skills. So what you can do is to share the skills with your colleagues. If you have a staff meeting, annual monthly staff meeting or whatever, sit down with your colleagues. Tell your supervisor that you need a little bit of time, that you want to share these skills, and share it with them. And by doing so, you share and you, in that sense, able to recall your skills, whatever you have acquired. So it's important that you invest the time for, I keep repeating the need to invest your time, because end of day, it's all about you. Because if you don't take the opportunity and make the best out of it, it is something that you lose in the end. Okay, that's all I have to say. And I would like to also take this opportunity to thank the organizers of the conference. You must have had a tough time doing it all online. I understand that you've been in lockdown in Sarawak for the last few months. So congratulations, it's very well organized and a good job done. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, participants. I hope I was able to share something with you.
Yeah.
Thank
you, Dr. Gina, for sharing your presentation and all the query from our online participant. Now we move on to Sabrina. Sabrina, are you around?
Can you hear my voice?
Yes, I can. I can listen to you. Okay, Sabrina. Question 1. What are the future plans of Kuching Polytechnic Library to increase the capacity of digital service for its library user?
All right. Thank you for the question, Mr. Edison. So for the future planning, we need to be done to ensure the continuity of this system, such as server upgrades, version, and so on. In fact, its use needs to be improved so that the system provides optimal benefits. And then the awareness programs also need to be implemented so that the use and satisfaction of users of these digital services can be improved. So this all is an ongoing process. All right. So that's all the answer for the question.
Right. Okay. There's another one question from our online participants. Based on the experience, how does Polytechnic overcome the issue of copyright?
So the okay. For this one, Polytechnic encourage the sharing of knowledge, research results among the lecturers. Then the understanding that copyright remains the property of the author, while the library is as a place to share knowledge. So I think this is an ongoing issue. Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Right, the next question will be, what are the role played by the management of the Polytechnic in the successful implementation of this service, Sabrina?
All right, so the management of Kuching Polytechnic strongly supports the implementation of this service from the beginning, such as provision of hardware, such as server. So even its technical implementation team consists of group of committed lecturers who want to contribute to the organization. Okay, thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you for your answer. Okay, now we move on to Nurul. Nurul, are you around? Nurul Farida. Okay, while waiting for Nurul, there's one question. I think our presenter today can one of the presenter can answer. How many percentage of public participation a benefit for achieving sustainable development goal in Maldives, Dr. Gina? Do you have any? I mean, would you have information on that?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
This one question say asking how many percentage of public participation benefit for achieving the sustainable goal in Maldives?
I'm afraid I don't have any information on that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And if at all it is, they have done reports and for public advocacy, etc. But the participation aspect, I'm afraid I don't have any information. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Just to share to our online participant today, Sarawak government under the Sarawak State Library has been appointed as the advocacy and awareness for sustainable development goal for its people. So for this year, we are starting for SDG 11 and 12 for a start. So we create we are appointed as advocacy and create awareness on sustainable development goal for SDG 11 and 12 to our library user, to our community at large. So this program is ongoing, and I think we are in a pipeline. We are make the module due to this pandemic. All the physical program is not able to do, so we make it available on an e-learning platform we call open learning platform. So this e-learning platform will be free for anyone who have internet access, who have valid email. They can log in, they can register and log in to the module. And as for the program, our library has been appointed as the advocacy and awareness for this initiative, Sustainable Development Goal, through Zero Plastic campaign, environmental campaign to the public. So they have a awareness, they know what to be a responsible citizen of the world in supporting the SDG Sustainable Development Goal. Okay, right. Nurul, are you in already?
Mr. Edison, Nurul has a network connectivity problems, so she is trying to reconnect.
I see.
I'm sure she is listening to us wherever she is. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, all right. So, so Nurul, if you can listen to the following, if you can listen to my next question, could you share what the academic librarian in Indonesia have learned from this critical literacy? Can you specify what the academic librarian learned, especially from this study, in relation to critical literacy, teaching strategy, material, and the classroom management? Nurul?
Perhaps she can answer using our chat.
Yeah, Nurul, you can answer the question at the chat room, at the chat box. Sorry.
I don't think she's able to reconnect with us.
I see.
She's having a connectivity problem now.
Okay, yeah, understood. Okay, thanks, Madam Lorena. So, thank you, Hamzah bin Masleh, Sabrina Milan, Dr. Gina D. Alwis Jayasuri, and Nurul Farida. Thank you also to all our participants for joining us here today. We hope that this has been a fruitful conference for you. Okay, please help us to improve our session by completing the feedback form. Okay, you can access the Google form at the chat room. I think we still have a question from the online user before we conclude. Okay, let me read the question from our online user. Yeah? I had two questions for speaker. First, in your opinion, to create equality and equity in accessing books and knowledge for the community, which thing can be generally a general institution and institutions of agency and library in particular need to have a change? The second question, I see online reading trend is developing fast and strongly. How should we build an institution's regulation to manage reading and access to knowledge on the network when copyright issues, stealing personal information has becoming hot? Thank you. Okay. Would you be able to answer that, Sabrina? I repeat, there's two questions for speaker. First, in your opinion, to create equality and equity in accessing books and knowledge for the community, which thing can be general institutions and institutions of agency and library in particular need to have a change? Okay.
Okay. For the first question, okay, I think it's from the family. Okay. For example, we encourage our children to read the books, and then the second one, we make the rules for the library. It's more easier for borrowing the books. That's what maybe that is my opinion lah for the question.
Yeah. The second question is, I see online reading trend is developing fast and strong. How should we build an institution regulation to manage reading and access to knowledge on the network?
Yes.
When copyright issue, stealing personal information are becoming increasing. Yeah.
I cannot hear you.
Okay. The question is when they said the question is online reading is a trend now. Yeah. And developing very fast. And how should we build an institution regulation? Do you have like a regulation to manage access of information to knowledge on the networks? Yeah, I think he are talking about the open access part of the content, the material, the reading material, the reference material. Because nowadays we talk about a lot on open access. Yeah. So
I think
it relates to how open access can help
Right. I think all the information is open access and free. So I think everyone can access. I think it should be no problem. Okay, because everything is on network now, so anyone can access. And then I think it's it's a good trend, okay, to encourage people to read the book online. Okay,
Right.
is it answering the question?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Sabrina. Yeah. So because nowadays open access play an important role providing access to
Sorry,
information.
I have having the problem with the mic, and then I cannot hear.
I see. Right.
Clearly.
Okay. Okay. Now can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I think what I want to stress again that open access play an important role when we provide this content through open access. So public or user, student or citizen of the world, digital world, able to access this without a copyright constraint. They can use it for, you know, now we talk about budgets. Our budget from year to year also is getting decreasing, right? So open access also help to expand our content. Yeah. Our content that we make available to our user, right? Okay, right. I think we will conclude for today. If there's no other question from the online participant, thank you also to all our online participants for joining us here today. And we hope that this has been a fruitful session for you. Okay. Please help us to improve the session by completing the feedback form. I think my colleague has sharing the QR, the Google form, and please please fill the day one of the conference feedback form. Yeah, right. And just for your information, the session materials will be made available to all delegates after the IKC 2021 at the conference portal. Okay. And lastly, join us again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. 13 August 2021 for day 2 of the conference. Yeah. Stay safe, everyone, and a pleasant day ahead. Thank you.